나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your support. Like, subscribe. It helps get this channel into the eyeballs of more people on YouTube. All right. YouTube business, right? But we're here to practice. We're here to build our resolve, our confidence, right? That's why we're doing this. To live our lives fully. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you. On that note, some of our Sangha are not as well versed in English as others. We have members. We have, members of the Sangha, right? Participants in practice from all over the world, which I'm truly grateful for. Thank you. And this is one of the wonderful things about YouTube. It's a global reach. Amazing that we can practice in this way. What would Nichiren have done with the internet? At any rate, the statement was made, and I fear, like Mahamati in the Lankavatara, the point isn't quite getting across. And I'm as limited by words as the translators are, and certainly whatever language Prakrit that Shakyamuni was teaching in. As much as he tried to communicate in a universal tongue of his day, it's hard to make these points about something so ephemeral. Ephemeral meaning of the mind. We simply, and this is true of Buddhism in its entirety, is a practice of experience. It's not a practice of documentation. It's not a practice of conjured beliefs and hopeful, wish things could be different. Buddhism is very much a self-centered, not ego self-centered, but mental self-centered responsibility for our maximal experience of life. Now, I say that, and I know what I mean, and many of you know what I mean, but there are some who still hear in that, and the concession I'll make is that, especially today, in the latter age of the law, as it were, in this modern era, which Nichiren talks about quite a lot, and he actually devoted a lot of time to, as you know, the earthly desires are enlightenment thing, which is greatly misunderstood. Trying to reach the minds of our modern fascination is far too glossary of a term, our deeply entangled identification with the material world. Even when I say the universe, you think stars and planets. You don't think dark energy and dark matter and stuff that we don't see, but we see. In other words, we're aware that the universe is mostly, right? That atoms are mostly space. What is that space? Right? We don't tend to think that way, but truly we know with our intellect that everything that we see, you and me, chair, my favorite example, or computer or building. It's all 90% of it is no thing. Just think on that. That alone is very disturbing, because we have been trained, and we train ourselves on the thingness of everything. And so I remember somebody asking a question of a leader, a senior member. Is Buddhism, is what you're saying, Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's teaching of the Lotus Sutra, is this the only path to happiness? And I was really disturbed by this senior leader's answer. He said, really without skipping a beat, no. And that disturbed me for years. And recently I was thinking about it, and I thought, it still disturbs me. Why does it disturb me? And what came to me is, it's the wrong question. Or maybe it's not so much the wrong question as it is profoundly indicating the problem to be reckoned with. The problem which spawned Buddhism. And it's simply this: what is happiness? Aristotle had a definition of happiness that was quite simple and straightforward, and for decades it worked for me. And just to review very quickly, his idea of happiness was simply this: have an amazing goal, a goal that's so huge that you don't see it being attainable. And then every decision you make, from awaking in pre-sunrise to sunset, every conscious moment, when you have a decision to make in your life, do I eat this? Do I not? Do I till this field? Do I not? Do I make this relationship? Do I not? Do I need that? Do I not? Every decision is measured with the goal in mind. When you have that target, every decision becomes, even though I really want that, it doesn't suit my goal. Aside, move on. If you have that kind of a directive, self-directive in your life, then everything you do satiates your great desire, doesn't it? Therefore, happiness. In other words, happiness doesn't always suit your greed, but ultimately it suits your goal, your life goal. This is really unshakable, real happiness. But in saying this in the context of this conversation, or alliteration, it's very materialistic, isn't it? What is your goal for which you are making every decision? It's implied that it's comfort, wealth, family. It's all materialistic. Oh, Aristotle. So when we say, what is happiness? What are we really asking? And who are we asking it of? So again, we have a language problem here. Is this the English definition of happiness? I don't think so. I think English just has another way of asking the same question that we've always asked. What makes you happy? Certainly, there's a great deal of materialism in the world that makes us feel elated. Some version of satisfaction, joy. I got a new camera. Woohoo! Can't wait to use this. But that's not really the happiness we're talking about, is it? What Buddhism is talking about, you could argue, isn't even happiness. It's a far more profound idea of a sensation, which once again is mental. It's a cognitive, experiential sensation that all of what we are, not who we are, but what we are, is being fully expressed and the only way to know that is to experience it, yeah? When we are overjoyed at the gift of a camera or check in the mail or a relationship, that's all based on material, ego, self, validation of the ego, the self. This is what we're inundated with day in, day out. Commercials, buy this, buy that, have this. Now you have the new iPhone. You're finally human. And that drug, that dis-ease that Buddhism points at, that's what Buddhism is calling out. But I'm happy. Look at all the stuff I have. Is all that stuff really who you are? What you are? That's a very strong, powerful drug, and the whole world is commanded by it today. This is what marketing is about. This is what manipulation is about. I want what you've got. I have more than what you have. I have the newer than what you have. Ego, 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 ego. I want you to be happy. Here's a bunch of this. That sounds benevolent, but what are you giving? Are you giving freely because you don't respect what you've got? Your ego needs to reach beyond your ego in order to build your ego? It gets very complex, yeah? And it brings back those big questions. Who are you? What are you? So Buddhism reaches well beyond that, outside of that, within that, something else, an essence, if you will, of what life is. And you can't say is without saying it is as a verb, not a noun. Because life is a moving target. Life is not this moment gone, new moment. It's momentum through time. How do I experience that? What is that like? And if I fulfill the momentous moment of every moment moving, well, that kind of implies I don't ever really own anything. Where's my ego in that? It's constantly slipping through time. That's kind of scary. How can I be happy without all my stuff, including my ego? How can I be happy? Oh, so happiness isn't a thing? Happiness isn't a condition? Happiness is an expression? A full expression? A witnessing? An experience of totality? I don't even know what that is. Right. What is happiness? That's a question to be pondered, isn't it? So, is Buddhism the only way to attain happiness? Well, it depends on what you term happiness. If a new Camaro is happiness for you, well, welcome to the material world. You haven't stepped an inch outside of your misery. Because I guarantee you, the moment you get a scratch in that Camaro, you come crashing down, you'll get angry, you'll get upset, you'll be, oh, now I need a new car. That's the nature of attachment, isn't it? Not a simple thing even to consider how we experience life. Because in that question is a massive mire of attachment, identity, ego. What is happiness? Right? Like all the cliches come to mind. He who dies with the most toys wins. Oof, frightening. Really? What'd you win? Because now your life's over. Are you happy? Yeah, see, ridiculous statements like that seem legitimate when you live in the material world. And Buddhism doesn't say you can't live in the material world. It just asks you to understand it for what it is, the ephemeral nature of it. Because if you get beneath the materialism, there's something completely new and different there. There's something that's so unrestrained, uncompartmentalized, unthingified that it encapsulates, well, life. What is that like? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. This is why we practice. This is why we chant. This is why we stumble and trudge through words to try to identify, again, the trap, but to unearth, to dig our way out of this materialism. And words are material. So conversation has its limits, doesn't it? All the words we can compound together and talk about every day, they help us look, search, but to find can only happen in one's own mind. And Shakyamuni knew this from the get-go. Ultimately, and this is how he defined Sangha, yeah? Ultimately, you have to find other egos that are desperately searching for this target, this like-minded effort to bring the mind, the samsaric, sentient mind, all the monkeys, and bring them to bear witness to something outside of the identification of stuff. Look at all this cool stuff. Yeah, look at it. But stop trying to own it. Stop trying to identify what and who you are by means of identification. I hear those words. They're logical. How do I do that? What is even that like? Enlightenment, awakening, the full force, brunt, and subtlety and sublime energy that is everything. I can see that. I can witness that. I can be that. Oh, that's not singular. That's not me, 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 me. That's something, wow, much broader than the shallow, narrow collections of identities that I've assumed myself to be. How liberating. so I can have all of this without having to worry about having all of this? What is that even? Yeah, that should be the dividing line question in your practice. This is what Mahamani's stumbling through in this whole book. And Shakyamuni's having a hell of a time communicating, getting over that obstacle. All right. I'm going to make that a short clip, and we will continue with the Lankavatara in a separate video. Okay? So here we go. I'll see you in that video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Patrons, you are essential for all of us to participate in this reinforcement and profundity of this practice. So thank you again. And I'll see you in that next one, okay? Bye for now.